Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital.
Now before I begin, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications. Dawn and Bridget had a dream. They wanted to be farmers. They wanted to raise their children in the countryside. They wanted to live and work on their own soil. But farmland in Massachusetts was simply too expensive for first-time buyers like Dawn and Bridget. They looked at a few farms further north, in Maine, but every farm that fell in their price range was too far from a major market. That's when they met Sam and Elizabeth. Sam and Elizabeth had been farming their 35-acre property since 1969. For the past 45 years, the couple had built up the farm's infrastructure, nurturing the soil's fertility, fostering a community of local buyers, and educating generations of apprentice farmers. Now they were looking to retire and wanted to find a successor who would continue their work. And Dawn and Bridget were the perfect match. But how could their farm, situated in a prime market, ever be affordable to the young couple? I'll let you know at the end of this video. But spoiler alert, it involves a land lease. Land leases are incredibly common in the agricultural industry, and a good number of farmers lease rather than own the farms they work. So if you are looking to lease farmland, or if you are a landowner looking to lease out your land, here are some of the things you should know first. Number 1. An agricultural land lease is a landlord-tenant relationship, like a residential lease. But unlike a residential lease, there are two ways that farmland rental rates can be set. The first is a cash lease. This option is similar to a residential lease, in which the tenant will pay a set lease rate per month or year for the leased land. This option is the least risky for landowners, but it does put some risk on the tenant, since they will pay the same amount to lease the land regardless of how productive their growing season has been. Another option that helps spread out the risk as well as the rewards of farming is a crop share lease. In this kind of lease, the landlord will receive a share of the crops that the tenant produces in exchange for use of the land. This does put more risk on the landlord, since they will receive less for the land in a poor year, but they will also benefit from additional profit when there is a great year. With this kind of lease arrangement, the landlord may also agree to pay for a portion of the input costs. Number 2, if you are considering leasing farmland, there are a number of things you should consider first. Here are just a few of the basic questions you should ask yourself. Just keep in mind this is only a starting point. What land characteristics are necessary for your crops? Not every soil type will work for every crop type, so know ahead of time what kind of crops you're looking to raise and what kind of land you will need to be successful. What infrastructure do you need for your farming business? Must the leased land already come with this infrastructure, or are you willing to improve the land? And if so, will you be allowed to do this? Will your land need to be irrigated? Similar to the infrastructure question, if so, does the land you are leasing already have irrigation infrastructure set up, or is this something else that you will need to invest in? How far are you willing to travel from the farm to the market? The further away a farm is from the market, the more affordable the lease likely will be, so you'll have to think about the trade-off between market access and lease rates. Do you need housing on site, or do you plan to live off-site? Are you looking to partner with the landowner in some way? Of course, a big question is how much you are willing to pay to rent the land, and what length of lease is ideal for your farm business. Number 3. Now, if you are a landowner looking to lease your land, there are a number of things you should consider as well. Again, here are just a few of the starting questions you should ask yourself. What type of agriculture do you think is suitable for your farm? In a similar vein, do you care what your land is used for? So this is another way of saying, do you have particular farming practices that you want to foster on your land, such as organic, or do you want to ensure that a diverse array of crops is planted versus monoculture? These are all things you should think about, because if you have a certain way that you want the land to be farmed, this should be included in the lease. How many years do you want to lease the land for? Do you plan on selling the property in the future? If so, it's important to include provisions in the land lease detailing what will happen if you do decide to sell. How important are land conservation practices to you? Similar to the question about farming strategies, it may be important that certain parts of the property are preserved. If this is the case, you'll want to include these provisions in the lease. Do you want to farm the land yourself? If so, perhaps you are looking for a tenant who's going to partner with you or farm only a portion of the land. When and how do you need to receive rental payments? And then what responsibilities do you want the tenants to have? Number 4, like any kind of legal document related to real estate, leases should always be in writing, and they should contain all agreed upon terms. At a bare minimum, a lease should include the following information: the length of the term, a description of the property and how much of it is being leased, a rent clause which includes the annual or monthly payments and the form that these payments will take, a termination process, so how either party can go about terminating the lease and what happens if there is a breach in the lease terms. If the landowner wants a limitation on subleasing and assignment, this should be explicitly written out. If there are any federal or state conservation provisions which the leasee must comply with, these must be detailed in the lease. In a similar manner, if the landowner is currently taking advantage of any state or federal farm programs or subsidies, the requirements to comply with these programs must also be detailed in the lease. If there are limitations on the types of crops that the leasee can plant, these should be listed out. And also, if there are limitations on the kinds of farming practices that may be used, these should be stipulated. And any responsibility that the leasee will have for upkeep and improvement on the property should be detailed as well. Now, number 5. Agricultural land leases are legal documents, so you should have a lawyer review and draft the document. However, the Farmland Information Center does provide a number of tools that can help you familiarize yourself with land leases. Their website is farmlandinfo.org/leaseyourland, but I'll have a link in this video's description. Number 6. The USDA also has a number of programs designed to help farmers seeking land. And their website is newfarmers.usda.gov. Again, I'll have a link in this video's description. But let's return to Don, Bridget, Sam, and Elizabeth. The sale of Sam and Elizabeth's farm to Don and Bridget ended up involving not one, but 2 ground leases and a conservation easement. This somewhat complicated structure allowed Don and Bridget to purchase the farm at an affordable price and ensured that the land would be protected in perpetuity. The transaction went as follows. Sam and Elizabeth sold a conservation easement to the state. This easement prevents development and preserves the property as farmland in perpetuity, but it also lowered the value of the land for the new purchasers. The couple then sold the property itself to a land trust. The land trust would be the owner of the land moving forward, but the trust did execute 2 separate ground leases. The first went to Don and Bridget, who also bought all of the farm improvements and physical infrastructure, including the farmhouse, for a very affordable price. The second went to Sam and Elizabeth for 1 acre of land on which their retirement home is located. Now, Don and Bridget continue to farm the land in a sustainable manner. They plant 40 different crops without the use of chemical fertilizers or pesticides, and they provide locally grown food to over 290 families through the farm's CSA program, ensuring that Sam and Elizabeth's legacy lives on. And just like Don and Bridget, perhaps you too can find your first farm using a land lease. Now, do you have any stories about land leases? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down properties at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.